Imagine your closest friend dies tonight, not in a hospital, not in a bed, not surrounded by doctors or family. You're standing in the middle of the wilderness. 50,000 years ago, there are no cemeteries, no priests, no funeral songs. No one has ever explained what death is. Yesterday, they laughed beside the fire. Today, they won't open their eyes. So, what do? Do you leave them where they fell? Do you carry them? Do you hide the body from predators? Or do you do something no other animal on Earth had ever done before? Because, surprisingly, the answer to that question may be the moment humans truly became human. For most animals, death is simple. When one dies, the group eventually moves on. Some animals show signs of grief. Elephants have been seen touching the bones of dead relatives. Chimpanzee mothers sometimes carry the bodies of their infants for days. But humans did something different. Instead of simply leaving the dead behind, we stayed, and archaeology suggests we've been doing it for an incredibly long time. One of the oldest clues comes from a cave in northern Iraq called Shanidar Cave. Inside, archaeologists discovered the remains of several Neanderthals. One skeleton belonged to a man who had survived astonishing injuries. His right arm had been lost. One eye was blind. His legs showed signs of severe damage. Yet, he lived for years. He couldn't have hunted effectively. He couldn't have defended himself alone. Someone fed him, protected him, waited for him. Long before he died, someone had already decided that his life was worth saving. Death didn't create compassion. It revealed that compassion had been there all along. But eventually, he died. And this is where things become extraordinary. Instead of leaving his body for wolves, hyenas, or vultures, someone dug a pit. They carefully placed him inside. Then they covered him. That might sound ordinary today. Back then, it was revolutionary because digging a grave cost something: time, energy, safety. Every minute spent burying someone was a minute not spent finding food, not watching for predators, not protecting your children. Burial had a price, yet people paid it anyway. The question is, why? For years, archaeologists believed ancient burials were simply practical. Bodies attract scavengers. They smell. They spread disease. Burying the dead solved those problems. But then, they found something that changed the conversation. Some graves weren't empty. People had placed objects beside the dead. Stone tools, animal antlers, pieces of red ochre, a natural mineral that produces a deep crimson color. No one knows exactly why. Perhaps it represented blood, perhaps life, perhaps rebirth, or perhaps it meant something we've completely forgotten. Whatever the reason, it tells us one thing: these burials weren't accidental. They carried meaning, and humans weren't only burying adults. In several prehistoric sites across Europe and the Middle East, archaeologists have discovered carefully buried children and infants. Think about that for a moment. A child contributes very little to the group's survival. Food was scarce. Life was dangerous. Yet families still spent precious hours digging graves for children who had barely lived. Logic alone can't explain that. Love can. But not every group buried their dead. Some placed bodies deep inside caves. Others left them on high ground. Some may have covered them with stones. Others likely returned to the same places again and again. The archaeological record is incomplete. Wood rots. Skin disappears. Entire landscapes vanish. Many traditions have simply been erased by time. What survived are fragments, enough to tell us that there was never just one way to face death, but there was one thing almost every group seems to share. They refused to pretend death didn't matter. Now imagine the people left behind. The fire is still burning. The children are still hungry. Tomorrow's hunt still has to happen. Life doesn't stop, but one voice is missing. One place around the fire is empty. For the first time, someone tells a story about the person who died. Maybe about the hunt where they outran a wild horse. Maybe about the time they found water during a drought. Maybe about how they always laughed too loudly. We'll never know those stories, but we know stories existed because long before writing, knowledge survived through memory. And every time someone remembered the dead, they kept a small part of them alive. There's another discovery that makes this even more powerful. At several prehistoric sites, archaeologists have found people who lived for years with broken bones that healed perfectly. Some had severe disabilities. Others lost teeth but survived into old age, alone. They couldn't have survived. Someone had to bring them food, protect them, care for them. Humanity didn't begin with the strongest individuals. It survived because groups looked after those who couldn't survive alone. Death simply exposed how strong those bonds already were. Today, funerals feel normal. Flowers, moments of silence, gravestones, black clothing. We rarely stop to ask where any of it began. Not the modern customs themselves, but the idea behind them. The simple decision that someone who could no longer help the group still deserved time, effort, and remembrance. That idea may be tens of thousands of years old, older than farming farming, older than cities, older than written language. Tonight, if you ever stand quietly at a funeral or place flowers beside a grave, remember this. Somewhere, tens of thousands of years ago, a small group of humans stopped their struggle to survive. They picked up someone who would never walk again. They dug into hard earth with stone tools. They laid that person down with care. Then they covered them, not because it helped them survive, but because love, memory, and respect had become part of what it meant to be human. And perhaps that was the moment we stopped being just another animal and started becoming us.